Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Another rainy day across San Diego County, and more wet weather is expected tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. KPBS reporter Melissa May spoke to the National Weather Service about the potential for flooding and whether this storm could make a dent in the drought.
National Weather Service meteorologist Casey Oswant says this winter storm is bringing beneficial rain.
As we've seen yesterday and today, it's just been misty, light rain just coming down nonstop. It's really easy for the ground to absorb that rain when it's coming down in a lighter fashion.
Oswant says starting late tonight through early morning, the rain could get a little more intense.
We are expecting a band of heavier rain to come, but we are only expecting rain rates of maybe 0.3 or 0.4 inches an hour, and it's going to be quick moving. And with quick moving rain, it doesn't allow a lot of water to come down in one area, so that does help limit the flooding concerns.
Oswant explains there may be minor ponding of water on roads in low-lying areas and minor issues near Palomar Mountain.
We are expecting to get quite a bit of accumulated rainfall up there, so there may be some minor flooding concerns, maybe a few little rock slides or maybe mud onto the roads near Palomar Mountain, as we are expecting 5 inches of rain there.
There is a high surf advisory that goes into effect early Friday until early Saturday. Oswant says waves could reach 7 to 10 feet.
There could be some minor coastal flooding in more of those typical spots like in Imperial Beach and at Cardiff State Beach in the parking lot.
You may be wondering if this rain is going to help our drought status.
All of San Diego County is in D3, which is extreme drought. We are only expecting, 3/4 of an inch of additional rain down in San Diego proper, with more like 1 inch to 1.5 inches in North County. Now that will be helpful, but it probably will not change our drought status.
The National Weather Service is monitoring 3 burn scars left by last year's airport, line, and bridge fires up in Orange County and San Bernardino County.
Once we have a fire and it burns all the vegetation, it leaves kind of this hydrophobic layer of soil where the fire has burned. And when the rain falls on that soil, none of the water gets absorbed, and that's why we get debris and mud flows in areas that have been recently burned.
A flood watch is in effect until Friday morning at 4 a.m. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The wind and rain is delaying efforts to pull the debris of a U.S. Navy fighter jet out of the San Diego Bay. The EA-18G Growler crashed into the water near Shelter Island yesterday morning. The Navy confirmed the pilots were trying to land the fighter jet when they ejected from the plane. They were taken to a nearby hospital and are now in stable condition. Kellogg's Beach remains closed due to potentially hazardous chemicals.
We've been picking up quite a bit of rainfall. It's led even to the concern of some flooding. And of course, when we're talking about numbers like this, 1 to 2 inches, it was a wet go of things. I'll tell you when we're going to dry out coming up.
As President Donald Trump works to overhaul the Justice Department, federal authorities in San Diego are in the crosshairs. San Diego area U.S. Attorney Tara McGrath is stepping down as part of the anticipated transfer of power. McGrath oversaw one of the most active U.S. attorney offices as the chief federal prosecutor for the Southern District of California. Prosecutor Andrew Hayden, who worked under McGrath, is taking over as acting U.S. attorney for the region. A federal judge is clearing the way for President Trump's plan to downsize the federal workforce. The White House says tens of thousands of employees have accepted resignation offers, but now, as Laura Aguirre reports, another wave of firings is catching a number of federal workers by surprise.
What we have here is a chaotic environment.
It's just complete chaos and, frankly, a whole bunch of cruelty.
That's how many who work with or inside the Department of Education are describing a wave of mass firings underway.
Just a phone call, they can't get into their computers. They haven't been received any documentation.
DOE Attorney Sharia Smith says several staffers were notified this way or woke up to this email obtained by CNN telling employees that they were being let go over poor performance. Workers at the Small Business Administration also received similar emails. The total number at both agencies unknown. Elon Musk spoke at a global leader summit about potentially much larger scale firings to come.
We do need to delete entire agencies as opposed to leave part of them behind.
On Capitol Hill today, Education Secretary nominee Linda McMahon faced DOE closure questions.
Do you agree that since the department was created by Congress, it would need an act of Congress to actually close the Department of Education?
And certainly President Trump understands that we'll be working with Congress, but certainly does require congressional action.
There's a lot of things that we can do together. Don't pull the rug out from under kids.
We are receiving messages from universities whose fundings have been cut. What we have is, again, chaos, and it is going to be the American people that bear the brunt of this.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now the top health official in the nation. Kennedy was sworn in as Secretary of Health and Human Services today. Just one Republican, that's Senator Mitch McConnell, voted against his confirmation. Kennedy faced intense scrutiny over his controversial views on vaccines and public health policy. 105 people have died of flu-related causes since the start of the season, including 4 teenagers. That is more deaths than the last 2 flu seasons combined. 71 of those who died were not vaccinated. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco explains what makes the flu dangerous and the warning signs to watch out for.
In San Diego County, nearly 8 in 10 kids ages 5 to 17 have not received a flu shot this season. This puts them at a higher risk for serious illness. Dr. Alice Pong is an infectious disease specialist at Rady Children's Hospital.
They come in with primarily influenza, and then a lot of them then develop pneumonia and some other complications with bacteria. So it can be pretty severe.
That's how the flu can become deadly. It usually attacks the lungs, but can also cause dangerous inflammation in the brain or heart, even in otherwise healthy people.
But especially if you have any underlying conditions like diabetes or any asthma, any other chronic conditions.
And in the worst cases, it can go deep into your bloodstream.
Then it becomes multi-organ system failure, where we see a lot of problems.
This year's flu is hitting harder, according to Dr. William Sang with Kaiser.
This is just going to be a tougher flu season just because of the strain. It gives you more severe symptoms.
Pong says warning signs of a severe case include
persistent fevers, difficulty breathing, chest pain, obviously, or their child's not acting right. They're sleeping all the time and they're not able to wake up. Those are the kind of symptoms that make you really worried.
Hospitals across the county are seeing a surge in cases. At Rady Children's, flu admissions are nearly double last year. And Sang says we're not out of the woods yet.
For the last 4 weeks, we have seen flu cases, total number of cases per week continue to rise, so which sends a signal that we're heading into the second bump.
He says vaccination remains the best protection, and while immunity fades over time, Sang says one shot should last the season, and a second dose isn't recommended.
If you have the vaccine, you turn a wild disease that can kill into something that's milder form that we can manage. So even if anything, it can reduce your severity.
Both doctors say flu season could last until March, so it's not too late to get vaccinated. They also recommend practicing good hygiene and staying home when sick to prevent spreading the virus. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Imagine a subway line that could take you from City Heights to Kearny Mesa in just 8 to 10 minutes. That's the latest concept behind the Purple Line. It's a long imagined transit line connecting the South Bay suburbs to job centers in northern San Diego. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's a grand vision with a price tag that has even supporters wondering whether it will ever become a reality.
Right now we're in Kearny Mesa, and it's one of the top 3 job centers in the San Diego region.
I meet Colin Parent outside a large nondescript office building at Balboa Avenue and Ruffin Road.
If you look around, you see similar kinds of things. There's a lot of people coming in and out of this area every day for a job, but it's also not very well connected to transit.
Parent is executive director of Circulate San Diego. The nonprofit has long been a supporter of the Purple Line, a planned high-speed transit connection from San Isidro to Sorrento Mesa. The goal is to give a faster and more sustainable alternative to the thousands of commuters who drive that corridor every day. Sandag, the county's transportation agency, recently completed a study that analyzes how the Purple Line might work as a heavy rail line with faster speeds and higher capacity than the existing trolley. The study looked at only a portion of the corridor, and it didn't consider financing or real estate costs. Even still, the price tag is staggering.
The first thing I did is I paged through to find out what the budget estimate was, and it was a $20 billion project cost. And I said, well, they're clearly not going to build this because there's no way that Sandag is going to have that much money to build one project. And even if they did have that much money to build they wouldn't and certainly shouldn't spend it just on one project.
For comparison, this version of the Purple Line would cost more than 10 times what San Diego recently spent extending the Blue Line trolley to University City.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, kind of like bittersweet, right?
Jesse Ramirez is Urban Planning Director for City Heights CDC, another longtime supporter of the Purple Line. He says he's glad Sandag did the planning study and is taking steps to move the project past the idea phase.
But at the same time, kind of bitter because I was kind of seeing through this study how hard and how complex of a project it is going to be and how long potentially it might take to make this project a reality.
One of the main cost drivers of the Purple Line is San Diego's topography. Tunneling is very expensive, and there's a huge elevation drop from City Heights into Mission Valley that a rail line would have to navigate carefully. Ramirez understands those engineering challenges mean this version of the Purple Line is cost prohibitive, at least for now. But he points out the status quo, which makes car ownership all but mandatory for most people, is also extremely expensive to consumers and taxpayers alike.
Yes, the price tag is high, but it's important to think about it in that context as well, how much we spend and our infrastructure as a whole, and that includes, of course, like freeway expansions and freeway maintenance.
Ramirez's job is to get regular people involved in urban planning. And he says a consistent challenge, especially with mega projects that take decades to materialize, is something he calls planning fatigue.
You get them all excited, like, hey, we have this idea of the Purple Line or a new rapid project. You get them all excited, you engage with them, and then the engagement kind of fizzles out because we don't know what's going to happen with the project, right? You kind of start getting community members asking the questions, well, why even participate to begin with?
An awesome concept of a transportation project does not move people.
San Diego City Council member Sean Ela Rivera represents City Heights and serves on the Sandag Transportation Committee. He says he wants more focus on improving the speed and reliability of the existing transit network.
And that doesn't mean not dreaming big or hoping for great things for San Diego, but I do think that we need to center the goals and the needs of the community as we're charting the course forward so that we can actually deliver for folks.
Sandag staff say they're also looking into a rapid bus version of the Purple Line that would be cheaper and faster to build than rail. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
After nearly a 30-year absence, American Airlines returned to McClellan Palomar Airport today. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen talked to a passenger on the first flight.
This is the first flight from American Airlines to land here in 28 years. It's amazing. Obviously, the convenience of flying straight into North County is amazing.
Shu-Pei Chow was the first person off that flight.
All the airport workers were out waiting for the plane to come in. There was a fire truck there that gave us a water cannon salute. And obviously, dozens of people in the terminal waiting for us to come in as well, too. So all of it was really exciting.
The last time American flew out of Palomar Airport in Carlsbad was in 1997. And the last commercial flight out of Palomar was 11 years ago. Chow lives 5 minutes away and flies to Phoenix weekly. He says it's great having commercial flights back because it means not having to drive up to an hour to San Diego International to catch a flight.
It's all about connectivity.
Jamie Abbott is the county's director of airport operations. He says in addition to connecting North County to a major flight hub, American returning will also boost economic activities.
American Airlines alone have brought in a crew of over 20 people. The county has brought on additional crews and contractors. The restaurant here at the airport, of course, is going to see increased business. So it's really a trickle effect and a domino effect for the rest of the region.
Matt West owns the Landings restaurant and bar in the airport. He's been waiting for years for commercial flights to return.
Oh, it's great for us, especially when you look at the times that the flights come and go. It actually really helps us in our slower times of the day. This morning, we're pretty much completely full.
West plans to hire more staff and extend opening hours in anticipation of increased demand. The inaugural flight to Phoenix also attracted self-proclaimed aviation geeks, such as Brandon Rabbit.
Absolutely. I think it's a big thing. It's important to see the airports flourish. It shows that demand, and I think it'll help the city of Carlsbad bring in new revenue and business.
Rabbit drove down from Orange County just to be among the first to fly out of Palomar on the first day of service for American Airlines. American will offer twice daily flights to Phoenix and back, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. In Carlsbad, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
The removal of a controversial footnote from the San Diego City Code could be delayed. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says that could mean more dense developments approved for the city's formerly redlined neighborhoods.
A footnote in City Code allows developers to build much more densely, but only in the Chollas Valley area, which remains majority Black and Latino and low income. Neighbors discovered the footnote and said it wasn't created equitably or transparently. The City Council voted in January to remove it, but Councilmember Henry Foster III added a second action to the motion to ask city staff to put ending the city's accessory dwelling unit bonus program on a future agenda. Andrea Hateru chairs the Chollas Valley Community Planning Group.
It surprised me, surprised probably almost everybody in the chambers. I knew that the great likelihood was going to be that there would be no second reading, so that it would be taken off of the agenda. And I'm very disappointed in that. I'm very disappointed, actually, that it was a compound motion, because it shifted the focus from the retroactive repeal of footnote 7 to, oh my God, ADUs.
Last week, attorneys for the developer SDRE told the city that they violated state law. Council members can't vote or discuss something that wasn't on the meeting's public agenda. SDRE is behind some of the city's largest proposed bonus ADU developments, up to 150 units on one single-family home lot. That same day, the second reading of the footnote removal was gone from this week's agenda. The city initially said the removal could take effect as early as April. Now, that could be later. Until then, any completed applications from developers can be as dense as the footnote allows. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
February is Black History Month, and locally that history includes the legacy of one man who stood up to segregation in a way that changed a lot of things about San Diego. Ken Kramer has the story.
Here's the east side of 4th Avenue between B and C streets, and what happened here in 1897 was really remarkable and not greatly known. So here we go back in time, and what used to be here was Fisher's Opera House, maybe the finest on the West Coast, built of 2 million bricks. All the great shows coming through town played at Fisher's Opera House. What happened was San Diego businessman Edward Anderson with his wife bought orchestra circle tickets to see Around the World in 80 Days at Fisher's Opera House.
They were told, no, you can't stay here in the orchestra circle. Colored people were not permitted in the downstairs portion of Fisher's Opera House. You'll have to go upstairs and stand in the balcony. Well, Mr. Anderson, who was a successful businessman, owned several businesses, including a mortuary, said, forget it, we're leaving, and I'm going to sue.
And he did, and he won. The newspaper account explained that there was a new state law, you see. Owners of theaters and other public places were liable for damages if they refused to grant equal rights to all comers, regardless of color or race. And even though the case was later overturned on appeal, Anderson versus Fisher and Fisher's Opera House was the first time in San Diego that anyone of color had challenged that kind of discrimination in the courts. Fisher's Opera House later became the Colonial and was itself a landmark in town for live shows and movies on into the 1920s. Eventually, it was torn down, gone. Today, there's no trace of the place that took on the Andersons in court, but remember I mentioned that he, Mr. Edward Anderson, was a mortician? His business is still going strong, thank you. Near Federal and Euclid, there's the Anderson name, forever connected to civil rights history in our county, and a story you now know about San Diego.
Very interesting. And you can watch a half hour of Ken Kramer's stories about San Diego at 8 o'clock tonight right here on KPBS. A strong storm is forcing evacuation orders and warnings across Los Angeles County. As Maribel Gonzalez reports, a lot of areas are still dealing with the disaster caused by January's wildfires.
For the second time this year, some in Southern California are evacuating.
A lot of the houses without the vegetation around them that burned off could slide down the hill very easily.
This time due to a powerful atmospheric river-fueled storm with heavy rain and the risk of debris flow over recently scorched earth.
In the Palisades, of course, there are many types of homes that are on severe slopes, and that could be a big problem for them.
The devastation from January's wildfires is severe, with entire neighborhoods reduced to ash.
Every time I come here, it's very difficult to deal with the fact all the house is gone, the neighbor's gone.
Officials working to shore up places at risk, placing sandbags and installing barriers.
These are called sock wattles. They're best management practices for stormwater management, and they keep any fire ash and debris that gets into rain on our property and not onto the roads and into the storm drains.
But LA leaders warn that issues could be widespread.
From mud flows in our hills to our flooded streets, downed trees, and fallen power lines.
And the longevity of the rainfall is increasing the concern.
We expect these heavy rains to last through Friday morning.
Emergency teams are on standby in case of torrential rainfall.
We're not going to necessarily be sure about significant debris flows occurring until potentially right before they occur.
Maribel Gonzalez, KPBS News.
It has been really a wet go of things recently, and as we continue to get the last of this heavy rainfall through our area, we will be talking about things quieting down as we head into tomorrow. That's not to say, though, that there won't be some showers. They certainly do remain for Friday, and we will also still have some winds, mostly for our mountainous areas. That's where we'll see those winds remain in a couple of different locations. Tonight really is the worst of the winds out there for us for those areas by the coast. And then cooler weather, drier weather in store for the weekend as we keep things pretty quiet. First up, as we head through tonight, we continue to see some of those showers. Again, the heaviest the rain moving through right about now as we go through these evening hours here. Then it'll quiet down as we go beyond midnight. 57 for the low. As you head towards Ramona, 50 degrees for the low, and 34 in Mount Laguna, keeping it more of a rain pattern here. As we transition to your Friday, you can see where this low pressure system moves in through the interior southwest, taking some of that wind with it. Though, like I said, it'll be a little blustery in our mountainous communities. 64 for the high as we head through tomorrow. It does come with some of those showers. We'll still be dodging them throughout the day. 63 as you head towards Oceanside. Taking a look at your 5-day forecast here, you can see how we do dry out for the weekend. So we're back to kind of our usual here with temperatures in the mid-60s for the coast on Saturday and upper 60s as we head into Sunday. You can see that gradual warming trend too into Sunday as we make it to the mid-70s for inland communities. We'll stay at least a little bit more mild as we try to work our way into the middle of the upcoming week. Mountainous communities still dealing with some of those showers pretty likely as we head through tomorrow, but with highs in the lower 40s, it stays a largely rain. Just watch out for some of those winds. They'll still be out there tomorrow in our mountainous communities. Again, drying out and trying to warm up heading into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday here. Desert communities still could see some of those showers as we hold on to the upper 60s. Then after that, we're back into the 70s for the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constancer.
A local flower company that was nearly washed away by last January's floods is bracing for another wet Valentine's Day. This is what native poppy in Mission Valley looked like a little over a year ago. Their warehouse was completely flooded and 2 delivery vans were totaled just 9 days before their Valentine's Day production began. With a flood watch warning in effect today, co-owner Natalie Gills says there is some concern.
Like last year, at least it was before Valentine's Day. This year, it would happen on Valentine's Day. And you can see behind me how many flowers we have and how many orders are already made and waiting in our cooler to go out. That fact that a lot of those people have come back to order from us again this year is amazing.
The native poppy says it installed flood boards and sandbags to prevent floods. Gill also told our media partner KGTV that they've talked about moving their delivery vans to higher ground to keep them away from any possible flooding. KPBS is feeling the love ahead of this Valentine's Day. We asked you to share your San Diego love stories, whether it's about a partner, a friend, or even a favorite place. You can read the results on our website. Just go to kpbs.org/lovestory. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.